Recording is live.
All right, welcome to the Greater Columbus Convention Center in the heart of Ohio for this year's OP Cup. I think we're going to have a great tournament today, and things are just starting to get started. So if you want to ask us any questions, we're available on YouTube or on the Discord chat. And yeah, thanks for being with us.
A little bit of technical difficulty. Ronald, I'm getting a repeat on what Phil's saying.
Okay, where? Do you have one of the streams open by chance?
I don't have any repeat.
That is a good lesson of Joe not being good at technology. I had Twitch open, and so I was hearing both in my ear.
Yeah, so I just launched Twitch Live. That's why.
That's great. So thankfully, me, who's bad at technology, had someone on here to explain to shut another window. But this is already gearing up to be a fantastic match. So I can tell you right now that is definitely David McMillan on the right, because I've play tested against this deck many times, and it's interesting to see the version of this that he's gone with. I'm not sure who his opponent is, but he's got a really interesting deck going on here too. He's definitely got a fighting strength variant playing the Fatal Attraction mission set. So he's definitely going to be focused on his anti-energy event, which will probably ding Dave pretty hard if it comes up at the wrong time, because Dave has shifted to an energy deck.
Yeah, Dave is looks like he went with the Dracula's Armory and the Mur Island combination that I was using in Niagara Falls. I found it extremely powerful. I do think Dave was using Drax Armory up there as well already. If I recall, he threw an 11 fighting at Beast the Brute to make sure that I couldn't use my armory to defend his armory attack. Just to absolutely make sure that it was going to get through.
So Dave's someone I always love to watch play and play against. He's got such interesting ideas in the decks he puts together, and Dave's somebody who he's not. I'm a little biased because I'm really good friends with Dave, and he is one of the BMG founders. But he's who I'm rooting for this tournament. He's made top 8 since he started playing in 2014. I think he's only missed the top 8 2 or 3 times. He's been in the finals 3 times, and he has just not managed to bring home that gold yet with one of his decks. So I'd like to see it. He's gone through many iterations of this. So Dave's been a big proponent of Mur Island for a while, but he's never combined it with Dracula's Armory. And this deck that he's playing, he had a really interesting strategy where he was running Doctor Doom in the Magneto slot. And what his strategy was, it was to try to throw the All According to Plan, which is a 4 fighting intellect. If you defend it, it allows Doctor Doom to search his deck or his dead pile for his opponent is -6 to venture. So the opponent's really disincentivized to block it. So he would throw that first and then try to set them up for the KO with the JW off the White Queen.
Yeah, that's a pretty nasty trick. He was telling me about that when we were playing up north. All right, it looks like we're set to go here. I think Dave is using the Might Over Mind mission set.
So Dave's going to be trying to get between that and Polaris has Confusion, which avoids the first attack of a teamwork card and ends the entire string. Dave's going to be really looking to slow down what the opponent's going to be playing. Oh, so he's playing Cory Sims. So that's Doug Sim, one of the tournament runner's sons, a very strong player.
Oh, okay, that's Cory. Great.
So Cory's put out some of the defense. He's stocking up on those teamworks right away. So Dave's going to be looking to either have the Confusion in his hand, or he may try to place out and concede and get that one of those anti-teamwork cards to lock down a large amount of Cory's placing advantage.
Yeah, I think I'd like to point out that I'm really happy to see that neither player discarded in the first round, and we're going to have, a fair fight here right from the start.
So I think what Dave's doing is explaining Polaris's card that's placed to her. I forget the name. I believe that card's called E-Flow. But what it does is it takes a turn to offensively put it in play, and then you shift any power card attack to it to avoid that attack. So I know for Dave, one of his most important things is to get those E-flows out. Those don't get discarded at the end of the battle, so he can essentially start to make a shield of those, which also helps him reduce the speed in which Cory will be able to continue to throw attacks.
Yeah, that's direct energy flow is what Joe's calling E-flow here.
Direct
For
energy
short.
flow.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, those things they really do help with your card advantage. Okay, so
Interesting.
Cory's
Cory
going to
did
go for
1 and run. Dave put, it looks 2 to the top. Now, one thing I know from playing with Dave, Dave's got really interesting theories. I'd say Dave generally tends to play very opposite to your strategy last game, Phil. Dave's a big proponent in just trying to get 1 or 2 card advantage and just doing those bet 2s and try to just consistently get the 2 up there till he can go for it. So Dave doesn't look to have any discards. Cory dropped a 3.
We do have an event here on Dave's side that says only Teamwork Universe cards that act as strength attacks may be played this battle. And that is not going to hurt Cory much. I mean, I guess he can't play the one from Silver Sable, but he can certainly still play his big teamwork sitting there on Heroes for Hire.
He did just place a second fighting one, so Dave did manage to shut 2 teamworks down with that event now. So we'll see
yeah.
if Dave goes 3 and tries to capitalize.
And there,
Dave
Cory
didn't.
just placed a card on Beast that's very similar to Energy Flow, but works for any attack that's Beast's one per deck. But must be played offensively.
Now Dave's going to. He did discard a Shadow Cat, so that means Dave has a Shadow Cat in his deck. So that's a really interesting decision he's putting Cory to. If Cory doesn't have an access to a negate through if he doesn't have a Reaver's Activator or a Beast negate, then he's not going to be able to stop the draw 3 that's almost definitely coming off Muir Island. Dave goes 2, Cory goes 2, so we're going to see a fight here.
All right, Dave's starting with Captain Britain here. I think this is going to be another similar card to Energy Flow that will stay in play.
So that's Britain's champion. That works. This is interesting because they're both kind of building this shell up. So Britain's champion allows an attack to be shifted. That's a special card. Cory immediately responds by putting Stars and Garters out with Beast, which any attack can be shifted to. I think we'll probably see Dave poke with his ally and then get his energy flow out. I think Dave's making a mistake in forgetting that he has his ally there, unless he's wanting to put that shell out and concede and save it for later.
That's possible. He's using all the cards from his hand, but if that's a block and draw, yeah, which it is, Dave's definitely staying in.
Yep, that's going to put Dave. That's such a hard card to calculate against when you bet. Oh, that is so sad to see. So Dave drew his most powerful event, which if he would have drawn that next, that would have made Cory have to discard every one of his teamworks and still stopped any that were in his hand from being played that battle.
I will say that when I was playing this Muir Island combination with a lot of drawing spells, that I only played one event in my deck for this exact reason. Because it is just crushing to draw, especially your most powerful event off the top and not get to use it throughout the game.
Yeah, a duplicate is bad enough. So Dave's got a white knight or a white tiger being thrown against him.
Yeah, so if that lands, that's going to make Dave discard 2 cards from his hand. Or I believe White Queen. I don't think he has to discard from other placed characters.
No, and it does. It sounds like what Dave's asking him is if he would have to discard cards, or if he could discard cards off the armory. Dave's probably looking to let it hit and be able to discard 2 of his basic universe cards. I do not believe he can do that, though. I believe it's only from White Queen or in hand.
Yeah, I would say that that's not allowed as well. We did get a good first match here, though. They're definitely going to be They're definitely going to be fighting it out.
Is Dave going for it right off the bat?
That's going to be a 6. Used to
Oh, he's-
attack or defend, I believe.
Mm.
Yep, the Shadowcat 6 used to attack or defend. So that uses his Shadowcat activator, though, so he probably won't be drawing 3 with it.
So I think what just happened here, and now I'm interested in what's going on. So I think he threw the 6. I think Dave announced concede, and Cory is trying to respond with the Wolverine make 1 attack after concession off his site. That's not a very commonly played card. I think they're asking for a judge ruling. Do you know the ruling on that, Phil? Can he play that post concession, or does that one have to be set up ahead of time offensively?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure that one can be played defensively. Yeah, I think that he's allowed to.
Or in response to a concession?
Correct. I believe he can do that to counter the attempt to concede.
It's not going to make a huge impact on this. It's going to allow Cory to get 1 more card out of his hand. Based on what Dave's been doing, it's probably going to either be a hit or use one of his existing defenses. But they're clearly talking to a judge, so we'll see what the call is.
You want to tell me what the meta code is, and I can pull it up?
So it's BE, and I'm seeing no for defense. So, but I always thought that card was defensive as well. So it looks like they played it defensive regardless.
Well, it's interesting. I guess, is that considered defensive if it's in response to Dave's concession? I guess it would be. The concession would be an offensive action. Whatever it is, the ruling on the floor by the judge was to allow it. So Cory threw the 7. Dave defended it with the E-flow, which is probably fine anyway. Cory's reading the new Magneto Masters of Evil card. So that card is a 6 fighting intellect, and then each one of Magneto's teammates can make an attack with more than 1 icon. So Magneto, he could do a string right now that's White Queen could throw the ally as a 1 intellect. Magneto could follow up with the 6 half multi, and then he's got a multi-power card placed on White Queen and Polaris that could immediately follow up. So that would allow him to do a 4-card string.
Yeah, and I think that it's very interesting to note that Dave is playing a lot of ally cards, and I don't think people typically play the ally cards that hit for only 1 or 2 points, just because it really hurts you venture-wise a lot of times. But Dave's strategy is clearly to attack the teamwork side of things. So I haven't seen many teamworks out of Dave's deck yet. Now, that's not to say there aren't any there, but he's certainly playing less than normal, I would guess. And on top of that, having all these different cards is going to really minimize Dave's discarding as the game goes along and more place cards are placed. And as Joe mentioned, Dave's strategy is usually a slower plot along strategy, so that would make a little bit more sense for him.
I know too with this deck. So some of the things you forget, Dave likes to play characters that set up interest. So he plays Cory plays the teamwork. Dave plays the confusion to shut it down and take the turn back. So if you notice the 5, it's that I believe is a JZ code. That 5 fighting place to Polaris can't be defended with a special. So a lot of what Dave's doing is trying to make these annoying small hits hit. Like that's a 3 intellect, and trying to set them up so either the JW chain from the White Queen or that 5 fighting won't be able to be defended with any of the cards from any special cards. So nothing from the battle site, no negates, no avoid, no the Daredevil 9 or less avoid won't affect it.
So Dave's hoping to make up the possible venture disadvantage by picking up some card advantage from killing a character that hasn't had a chance to play all of his cards when that character, or when his opponent thought he would probably be able to keep that character alive.
So we're seeing a lot of back and forth quickly. So Dave got another one of the E-flows out that defends a power card. Cory was able to throw a full 3-hit string from his teamwork and then 2 attacks. Dave defended a lot of it and then ran. So Dave's really hoping, I think, to bring this placing advantage into the next fight.
Yeah, so now I think Dave's got 2 in the bottom there, and Cory may only have 1 in the bottom as far as missions go.
So this Dave is having real bad luck with the events. So this event that Cory just played, no cards with an energy icon can be used to attack. Now the only thing that's a saving grace is Cory just dropped a duplicate of Jubilee and a duplicate of Silver Sable's 9 or less avoid from reserve. And Dave's ability to get around those cards may be enough to pull this out.
Yeah. So
Dave
also,
actually,
I was just going to say of note, all activators are going to have an energy icon on them. So for this entire battle, neither player will be able to play an attack with an activator because that activator is part of the attack.
So now Dave just had to discard. I forget the name of it, but Polaris has a card very similar to Hawkeye's Dynamite Delivery. It's a 2 energy. If it hits, it becomes an 8 fighting. Polaris is a little weaker because the 8 goes directly to the permanent record and it doesn't give you venture. But it looks like Dave had to discard it, I'm guessing because he couldn't place it to Polaris or the home base, and it has an energy icon. So I don't believe that that's a duplicate. I think that was a forced discard because of Cory's event.
Yeah, that's absolutely an unusable card. That card is called Reverse Polarity. And yeah, that's just, I mean, Cory's event's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. I mean, getting to play Doctor Strange in reserve is a very strong backup 8 stat for energy, but energy teams will always be weak to this event set.
This is an interesting play to me. So Cory is immediately throwing out that 11, which that means now, I wonder if this is a mistake. Cory's not going to be able to use that teamwork or that 8 strength that are placed to Heroes for Hire. So he's locked out 14 points of venture this battle.
Yeah, I'm pretty surprised about that as well. I'm also not sure how many Cory ventured because I either can't see them or he didn't venture. I assume he had to have ventured. But yeah, it's quite hard to see how that Heroes for Hire 11 play was a correct play. But you never know what people are thinking. Okay, so he just shifted an attack and blocked it with the 8 on Heroes for Hire. So
He's only got 1 card in hand, so I'm guessing that he didn't have a follow-up for that teamwork anyway and was planning to just use the 8 defensively. I'm not sure I agree with that play. I probably would have just tried to offensively throw the 8 and put a little more pressure.
yeah, okay. So Cory was just simply down on cards a lot, even though he had his event, and was just not planning to play that battle out. So he had ventured 1 from the top, went back to the middle. So now I'm guessing Cory has probably 2 or 3 in the top and 1 in the bottom, and Dave is about the same. Probably 2 in the top for Dave.
Yeah, I think they might be even. I can see at least 2. Oh wow, this is is really rough. So there's 4 duplicates from Cory's hand. His negate, his Silver Sable avoid, his Wolverine activator, and another card. Dave doesn't look to have any duplicates. Dave's already got a placing advantage. So, and this is sort of the thing that tends to happen a lot with Dave's games. The brilliance of Dave's deck design is he tries to design more than 50% of his deck to be individual cards. So there's cards that groupthink, a lot of people won't play in this deck the 4 energy make an additional attack off White Queen, but you'll see that card played often by Dave because he knows if he places that card it will never dupe. And and you're seeing right now Dave's personal deck design theory in full effect, where he's just got a few extra cards on the table. He's leaning on that advantage, and then 1 bad hand by Cory. I think you're going to see Dave go. I mean, Dave might go 5 for the win here, just with the huge advantage and no events on the table.
It's very possible. I'm curious to see if he does. I can tell you that I ventured 5 against Dave when we were playing in the last tournament, and fully expecting him to dupe at least one of the cards that he drew because we had a lot of cards, and he didn't throw away any of them. And it was a very, very close battle because of that. So yeah, that's something that him playing all those extra cards just makes it very difficult to venture against him.
I think that Dave went 3. I think Dave is sticking with his strategy of just slow burn. that'll put him in a position to bet 3 the next battle as well for the win.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason that he has to take any chances right now. He has such a solid placing advantage, and none of the characters have hardly any hits. Each team has 1 hit. I mean, we're just not in a position where you have to rush, and there's 24 minutes on the clock, so plenty of time.
I can see Dave has his 3rd E-flow in hand, and I think you're going to see Dave's just doing exactly what you're saying, Phil. And this is really why players like Dave so consistently make the top 8. I think the big difference between a really experienced player is that knowing when to just sit back and not take that big swing and get greedy and just lean on an advantage like this. I'll also say I talk up Phil Miller a lot. That's one of the things Phil Miller, I think, is fantastic at. I don't feel like a lot of games against Phil I lose because he makes these big bet 7 moves. I feel like Phil gets a few cards up on placing advantage on me, and I just am never able to turn that around. It's just quicksand. Once I get into it, the more I struggle, the deeper I get.
Yeah, from a general strategy perspective as well, it is very risky to make that one additional venture. Like, if you can say guarantee that you're going to win a venture of 2 or even 3, but you could venture 4, but you might lose. I mean, it's very rarely correct to make that additional venture. Situations where it might be correct are if you know that your opponent's going to get a nasty event that's going to really hurt you in the next round or 2, or they haven't seen a lot of their powerful cards and you've played most of your good cards already. In those situations, you really might want to take a chance because it might be the only way that you can win the game. But in most situations, you can just grind out that placing advantage and make the safe but strategically correct play of betting just enough to know that you're going to win, but maximize the return.
So Dave is really putting Cory on his back foot. So Dave's other strategy in this, he switched Magneto out specifically to get access to this 1 per deck. So he wasn't able to place it because he had cards, specials placed to Magneto in the home base, but he was successful. Magneto was able to pin heroes for hire, so he can't attack. He knows he's not going to get hit with an 8. He knows if a 7 comes through, he can E-flow it. He's not going to get hit with the JW. Yeah, Dave's just really setting himself up in a position to be able to deal out some punishment here.
Yeah, it certainly hurts Cory's ability to do anything nasty and surprising. Okay.
And Cory just had to eat through his entire placing advantage. Dave's going into this next hand with 6 placed cards. 6 placed cards and 2 full defenses in play from those 2 shield cards. So he's essentially up 8 cards to Cory's 2 right off the bat. If Dave doesn't have a lot of dupes here, this is probably going to be the last hand for Cory.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine how this isn't the end.
Dave drew that 11 for Magneto in his hand, so that's already going to put Cory in a rough spot. He's got a Nightcrawler, so I think you're probably going to see Polaris try to pin somebody, and then you're going to see Nightcrawler try to pin someone. Dave's also got the Magneto. He can avoid any attack with more than 1 icon and becomes immune to Spectrum from multi-power cards. We'll see if that comes into play.
Yeah, that's actually a very strong card that came out of the Masters of Evil set.
That's one of the things that with Magneto, both that and his 1 per deck are themed with multi-power cards. Kind of a fun little bit of flavor that he specifically affects those things. Cory's being a little... Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think Dave made a good decision getting rid of Dr. Doom. As fun as that combination is, I think this deck is just a bit more powerful.
I agree. I think Dave's natural inclination too, though, is to go away from energy. Dave has really been the one that's run Fatal Attractions, I want to say, for his last 6 or 7 of tournaments. So him going into an energy deck is very out of character. But he's been he really likes this. He's really big on Polaris, and I think he's right. I think Polaris is definitely a character that's very playable. That's kind of been slept on.
So what I'll say about Dave's deck choice today is that Dave is in the Master Series, And because Dave used Silver Sable in the last tournament, that means that Dave can't use Silver Sable. Well, I guess he could, possibly, but maybe he can't use any of the same characters. I forget the exact rules. You certainly can't use the same. You certainly can't use the same of the 4 characters from the Lambo. And Dave's using 0 of them. Well, okay, he's using Doctor Strange, but did he have any in his other deck? Do you remember, Joe?
I don't remember his deck from last time. I don't know if
Yeah,
he did
yeah.
or not, but he
It was
cannot.
like
So the rules for the
Zilla.
Masters is no characters can repeat, and you can only use one from what you guys originally called the Lambo, and now people call the Cadillac. Both the same deck. All right, so
Yeah,
we're getting a
so
lot of back and forth here too. So, he was able to use that Magneto Avoid to block that 4 that was coming through a little higher from the teamwork. So he's letting Cory read it. So Magneto now cannot be Spectrum KO'd by multi-power cards, and this is a detail that is a little fuzzy for some people, but just so we can explain it. So there are 2 types of multi-power cards in Overpower. There are multi-power power cards, but there are also multi-power cards. For example, Holocaust 8 multi is also categorized as a multi-power card. So that 8 multi would not count towards Spectrum if it was used against Magneto and became a hit while that special's in play.
okay, yeah, good to know. Um, yeah, Dave did end up going 3, and it would look like Dave will probably win this. I was bringing up the Masters because Dave is the highest ranked player in the tournament, chasing the Masters title. I do have 8 points from the previous tournament, but I believe Dave had 3. So if Dave had a good run in this tournament, he would absolutely win the Masters title. So that's something we're going to be following all day. Is Dave's record for sure?
I think the Masters series was fun for Dave to do because Dave usually tries to play these alternative decks.
Yeah, I mean, it really required some thought to not play more than one of those particular 4 characters. I mean, you almost had to use Doctor Strange. I mean, I guess nothing makes you do anything, but Doctor Strange and Silver Sable are just pretty clearly the 2 best reserve characters in the game at this point. And so when I was thinking of the Masters series, I was certainly thinking that I was going to have to build one deck with Strange and one deck with Sable. Now, if I had some other super creative idea, I could still use Spider Woman or the Flash or someone else from reserve, but it would be tough to justify at this point, at least. But maybe we'll have some new cards coming up, in the next year or 2, and possibly there will be more options.
Absolutely. That is a hope that we BMG hopes to be announcing things soon. Unfortunately, we can't speak of anything today on it, but I do think I'll be interested to see how many of these decks in the Master Series use Strange in the back. So we're in an interesting. Cory has really managed to impressively stop a lot of what Dave's doing, but I just don't think he's going to be able to pull it off. He had to let that 11 hit, and he's down to 1 card in his hand. I think
Dave's
that
already. That's probably it.
that's it. With the amount that Dave has placed, I think Cory's shaking his head. You're gonna see the handshake here soon.
There
Yep,
it comes.
there it is.
Very nice match, gentlemen. Very nice match. Cory
Cory's
looks like he's
smiling
just
and
shaking his
shaking
head.
the head. And that's a lot of what happens when you sit down across the deck from Dave. I think one of Dave's greatest strengths with his decks, I love watching it because I think Dave really tries to get away from the groupthink, and Overpower historically had been a game where you couldn't branch out with characters as much, and I think the environment's been opened up enough now that you can see a deck with Polaris and it's pretty competitive.
Yeah, that's incredible. Just in the last year or 2, certainly with the banning of Devour, but also the new home bases that were released, and can easily be acquired in the Essentials pack. It gives you a lot of different deck variability, and yeah, it just makes far more cards playable, which increases the number of combinations that are, worth considering.
The I will have to say, I know that for years was a big point of contention. There were a lot of people that didn't want to ban Devourer of Worlds, and I think there's a current opinion that any heroes are a little too weak. I don't agree with that. I think that we've seen any heroes at least be 2 spots in the top 8 every tournament since that's happened. But I think that the benefits just so far outweigh the you know being upset that a legacy card that's so well known isn't available anymore. I think that Dow was just one of those mechanics that anytime that it went through and it affected the game, it really just killed the player experience for the person on the other side. I feel like some of the best games I've walked out of have been games that I've lost, and they've been games that I've lost because my opponents made a brilliant play. Or honestly, Phil, even, credit to you, I had such a blast losing to your deck design in the last tournament because it your ability to be pulling those draw threes the first couple of hands, you beat me in 2 hands, and I just didn't recognize what was about to happen. And then afterwards, when I was thinking about the skeletal summonings and I was starting to do the math, I was like, oh, he's got at least 14 chances to get a draw 3 in the first hand. Like, I felt that was, I lost that game and I left just being like, it's brilliant. It's just so great to see an innovative strategy like that right off the bat, in a game that's this old. So I feel like Dow was sort of the opposite. I never lost a game with Dow where I felt like any of my decisions mattered, or I lost because of any kind of innovation.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, believe it or not, that deck had roughly an 87.5% chance of having access to a draw 3 in the first hand, and close to a 55% chance of having access to 2 draw 3s in the first hand. So it's really staggering how quickly that deck was able to, just overpower someone. Now, of course, long term, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's gonna always win or be the most powerful deck, but at the beginning, it's very strong. And yeah, it's to your point. I agree that Dow being banned was long overdue. I know that I've talked to some of the card designers, and I know that they were planning on building or releasing another card in a future set that was just as powerful in the other direction, that attacked any heroes in a similar way. But even if they did that, I just don't think that was going to be good for the game all around. Like, you want the game to come down to strategy, not just pure luck. And there's just no way around the fact that no strategy was going to stop you from losing to Dow. I agree with you completely that from a gameplay perspective, it was no fun. I mean, it just wasn't a fun card, and I hope to never see it again.
I agree with that. I think that's something that that starts to get into a little more of a high level game design theory. And I think one of the things that Overpower didn't benefit from is having releases after 2000. Because I think Magic the Gathering, the biggest CCG on the market, they sort of learned over time, the colloquialism that the community uses is feel bad cards. Like, there's mechanics, and there's certainly some ways you can get around those mechanics, but if the result of the mechanic is any time it's successful, it takes away your opponent's ability to win based on decisions they make, then it's not a good mechanic. Even if it's not like a game-winning, devastating mechanic, you always want the game to be decided on the choices that the players make. And that was always my biggest issue with Dow is if Overpower had been a game that had stayed with official releases for that long, there's no doubt in my mind that Dow would not have been allowed in a legacy environment.
Everything you wish for.
Only in
Site traffic
what
is
Magic does, where they have
skyrocketing.
vintage
Until
with everything's allowed and almost no one plays it. Cards like that would have stopped seeing design. It's a very like late 90s, early 2000s CCG design, and modern CCGs and these kind of games, they just don't make cards like that anymore.
I agree. They would never make a card like that now. Never. Yeah, it's just not fun.
All right.
Yeah, so-
well,
Wow.
this round's got about 9 minutes left to it, and then there's usually, at least 5 to 10 minutes to see the next round. So we had an awesome first match here. That was it was so great to see such a creative deck on Dave's side, kind of see some new strategies. I love it. That's what the game's all about.
Yeah, Joe, I think that we're going to be in for a great day here. I think that
I do.
we're going to see all kinds of good decks coming out. But I also think, like you said, that we'll probably have until about 11:30 Eastern time here before we see any more action. So perhaps we'll step away for a minute and we'll resume around, I don't know,
Yeah,
10
I'll
minutes
take
or
care
so
of the
from now.
music. Yeah, I'll take care of everything. You can just mute
All
your
right,
mics.
guys. We're
Great,
going
thank you
to
all.
take a short break. As soon as we get some action on the screen, we're going to be back with you.